that's what it's amazing about art and music is just you have to try to just break the rules, man. Just, don't take the easy route out and just make something. Like if somebody takes a sample pack and there's a kick and then there's a snare and there's a loop and then they take a loop and a top and a hat and there's nothing original about this. It's just putting, stacking stuff on one another and going, oh, I made a track. No, I really didn't.
Yeah.
It's not like how quick you can do something. It's how well you do it,
Junior Sanchez, welcome to Music Talk with me on Twitch. How you doing, sir?
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, we're good. We're good.
Fantastic. All right.
How are you?
I'm great. It's early in New York, but, I like getting up early, so this is good, especially for you. Thank you for having me.
That's okay. Are you generally an early riser then?
I try to be. I think it's good to be an early riser, be proactive. But, it depends. If I have a gig the night before, it's, I do sleep in. I do tend to sleep in when I get in at 7 a.m.
Yeah, you've got to balance that sleep. Yeah, I'm an early riser. I get up at like 4:30 and get cracking early. I like that space in the morning and just quiet time,
Yeah, absolutely.
How are you? How was the last? I said this before. Like, I feel like we're in this point where like we're after New Year's Eve when you're emailing people and it's like 2-3 weeks afterwards and it's like, do I still say Happy New Year? Are we past that point now? Like, so how has the last pandemic 18 months been for you? How have you navigated it? How's life been?
I mean, I'm sure we all want to move on from it, but it's still prevalent. It's still something we're dealing with. It's still a topic. We're still feeling the repercussions of COVID and the pandemic in all walks of life and in every country. So it's there, and we can't do anything about it. It's the pandemic for me was as it was for everybody was pretty traumatic, or something new to deal with that we never dealt with before. We never lived through a situation like this, but it was also refreshing and it kind of reinvigorating, and it was a restart in many ways. I was super prolific and I worked a lot, but I was also in and out of weird feelings of emotions, and may you even say some sort of depression, because it was a dark time. But overall, made it through, and we're still here and we're kicking ass.
Because you're saying you carried on working, you carried on releasing. Did you, from a label point of view, did you carry on releasing records from that side? Did you stop? Because I know some people stopped and carried on. And
no, we just, I think that was probably a saving grace, was just like acting as normal as possible, but being home and secluded. So music went on, releases went on. We actually formed Kultur, label to have with Demuir during the pandemic. So a lot of new things happened for me. I got new management, new agent. All that happened during the pandemic, which is incredible. Which didn't happen before. Yeah. And it was beyond the personal life transitions, it was a pretty productive year of being secluded at home. Because that's what it was. I mean, 2020 is a blur, man. And it's so weird that we went through that. It's interesting to hear everyone's stories and everyone's process of how they managed to get through, being isolated. Some people just didn't know how to deal with it. Some people dealt with it a little better than others. I had, an interesting story with, between the pandemic happening, the trials and tribulations of racial injustice, like George Floyd, for example. My mother, who has Alzheimer's, came to stay with me, and I had to take care of her. And she had shingles, and she didn't remember her shingles. And then turns out I never had chickenpox, even though I traveled the world, and I thought I did because I didn't remember. She couldn't tell me, and I wind up contracting chickenpox during the pandemic from my mother that had shingles at my age, which is not fun for an adult. And then I had a tooth crown because I had a fever and chicken pox. Went, and then no dentists were open. And then my wife goes, I'm pregnant. So it was like, whoa, it was pretty. And then it was...
You don't want to know, and I'm trying not to. Like, that's fucking mental.
No, it is pretty funny. I mean, it's mental. It's kind of fucking nuts.
Sorry,
it's totally cool, man. I mean, it's pretty mental, and then with that, trying to maintain some sense of normality or some sanity, let's say, and making tracks and trying to be creative, and I would never forget 2020, even though I can't remember it because it's such a blur. You know what I mean? It was like it was so traumatic that you want to forget it, but you can't. I don't know. I know it's an oxymoron what I just said, but it's just really, it was beyond, forget interesting. It was something I never want to experience that again. Ever.
Holy moly, I didn't mean to laugh. Sorry, I didn't mean to laugh. It was just like, whoa, what the fuck? That's loads of stuff going
I
on.
laugh.
Okay, so let's, oh my God, I don't know where to go from that. That's mad.
You can go anywhere. That's a good segue. We can go.
I'm glad you got through it. Fuck about. Oh, like, when you think you had a busy year. Christ, that's mental. I love that. But I say, wow. So you started let's start. So you started a label with Demuir in that time. Let's talk about that. Let's go for there for starters. How did that happen? Have you been Demuir long? Like, how's that partnership work?
We became friends through actually I met him through Jesse Rose, I think, in ADE a few years ago. And I've been a fan of his music and his work ethic and his ethos. And then I invited him to play at a party I was doing in Amsterdam at the W. And I don't know, we had a good time. Yeah, and I usually do my Brobot and friends there every ADE. So we just started talking about music and our values and our core values, what we believe house music should be at and how it should resonate with people and the culture. Like, our views on the culture are very, very similar. And then we were just like, man, why don't we start, we started, kind of dropping, planting the seed about doing something together. And then during the pandemic, we really made it into a reality. And then our partner, Till, we all put it together, and then we said, let's create culture and create a label that's not just events and not just music, but giving back to the culture. So every time we do an event, we'll do a culture lab which before the event, we'll do a Q&A. We'll talk about, the culture itself, history of house music, the origins, where it came from, whether it be production, whether it be, a lot of great information to give back so we can keep the narrative going and not let it change through the course of history. So as long as we're alive, we want to make sure that the story stays accurate, and, that's what we're doing.
That's cool. That's really cool. I like that. What was the first, tell us about the first release? Like, how are you signing music? Like, what stories are you telling from your how you see the culture? That's so interesting.
The first release was a double A side, one side him, one side me, and I did the actual title track called The Culture, which it breaks down to someone speaking about the culture and the OGs and what they represent and how they represent it and how new kids or the younger generation should learn from the OGs, but at the same time, the OGs should learn from the younger generation. It's a give and take, but the information needs to be shared and it's there. So that's the first release we did called The Culture. And because we were in a pandemic, we didn't do any events. We just had a first event in House of Yes this past Saturday. It was sold out by Thursday and we killed it. It was amazing. Our next event will be in Miami for a Winter Music Conference.
Sick.
And we're going to hold a culture lab at this, I can't say the space right now, but it's a sound bar where literally it's a very tiny bar for a very limited amount of people. And it's like mixologist. I'm going to be the mixologist, but mixologist is vinyl. And then there's drinks and cocktails in this bar. And we're going to hold a few, special guests and we're going to talk about the culture. And then later on that night, we'll have our party in a bigger venue.
Sick. I want to come. I'm coming. I think I'm coming to Miami. So
you're there. You're one of the guests. You're one of 40 that are only coming into this specific bar that is built just It is literally a Japanese soundbar, but in Miami.
Wow, that's cool. I'm definitely when it comes to that. That sounds so sick. I've been kind of toying with Miami because I haven't been anywhere for like 2 years, and it's like I like Miami. It's good fun. How often are you releasing? Just while I scroll back, because
there was a point that I guess I think I'm like releasing a record a month until way into 2022. So I'm pretty. It gets to the point that I need to slow down because I'm just making records and they're just being picked up and signed, and it's weird because by the time they come out, I feel that they're old, but the world feels like they're new. And there's some sort of disattachment from me, but then I get reattached when people finally hear it and they give me their feedback.
That's really cool. Yeah. Oh yeah, Skeleton Keys has asked you a question, Junior Sanchez. Whilst I sort the internet out, how did you get into the business? That's a big question. There you go. That's a good filler.
That's a loaded question. How did I get into the business? I mean, with a lot of passion and desire for the love of the culture and the music. My first record, I was a sophomore in high school, so I was pretty young. I started DJing at 11, but I started playing out. I was 14 years old, believe it or not. So it was just something that I was passionate about. And next thing you know, it started snowballing. I had a friend who had a studio. Actually, it wasn't. Let me rectify it. Well, he wasn't a friend. He saw me playing at a club. He was an older guy. And he's like, hey, can you make records like how you're playing? Like, or what you're playing? I'm like, and I lied. I said, yes. And I went to the studio and I started making music. And that's it. I never stopped. I fell in love with the art of production and creating. And and by the time I was a sophomore in high school, I had my first record out on Strictly Rhythm. I had two local New Jersey label, a Jersey label, and then, well, I always say my first real record was on Strictly because that was actually my third, but really my first.
Is that label? Is that local label? Is it like they're from?
Strictly's from New York, yeah.
Yeah, I thought so. Yeah, I thought so.
Yeah, Gladys Pizarro was the A&R at the time, and she's like our mother. She just obviously signed and discovered everyone from Armand and Kenny and Louie. Like she was like everyone's godmother of house, and she signed all these records. I mean, everyone from Murillo's records, Real to Real, everything. So she's she was a visionary of sound. She was the person that literally brought us in and would say, I like this, change that, do this, I'll sign it. Boom.
That's sick.
She was amazing. But she still is. She's still around.
Do you take any of that kind of knowledge and into what you're doing now? Do you do a similar process when you're signing records?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a little bit easier. I mean, for Kultur and for Brobot, we do have, I do bounce off some peers, like, my partner in Brobot, his name is Blackwell. He's a creative director, but he's also a musician, and he DJs and produces. So he listens to music. The label manager, Alejandro, listens to music. I listen. So we all, it's kind of like a team. I mean, I've made decisions where this comes out regardless, but usually it's like, if we all dig it, let's put it out. And I've always had this ethos, even when I had Cube during my vinyl days. If I like it, I'll release it. I don't care what anybody says. And I still have that. But for Kultur, it's Demuir and I, Demuir and I, and also Jamel. We listen if we all see eye to eye and we dig it, and it feels right if it's a record that stays true to our language of the culture, and it's not gimmicky. It's really truly fundamentally rooted in house or even in techno, because techno is soulful. Remember, it's from Detroit. It's black. It's not just bleeps and blops. There's a lot of soul in techno. We'll put it out.
That. Yeah, I love that, and I feel like a lot of people have forgot about techno a lot recently. It's been a lot of not that with techno so far. A lot of it so far at the moment. Okay. So the first record came out, Culture, and that was obviously about, as you said, you've released some other records from a whole host of people. Like I was literally just scrolling back, and you've got some great names on there. Like obviously, Blackwell's part of the team. You released one with where you work with Shamanology. They've had a great year. Tell us about some of their releases, I guess.
We have one, Chris Simmons, which is obviously Chris Simmons from the UK. Legendary UK house artist. Some younger cats, Casey Wright he's German, but he lives in Chicago. I mean, Demuir, obviously. I mean, we got a slew of amazing releases and upcoming. We ain't stopping. It's going to be, we won't spill too much of the beans, but we got some icons, and we have some amazing new artists that are just emerging and breaking through right now.
That's really cool. Where are you like, where, always my thing with labels is how are you finding that music? Like when someone sends you a demo email, what do you kind of like to see in that email? What do you see? Like I know different labels expect different things. It's always interesting to see what labels like and what they don't like. Where are you on that?
We source it ourselves. We put feelers out. We ask people that we love and admire if they got anything, and we tell them the story of the label and why we chose them or why we're releasing music. And it's not about just because we just want to be another label and just release records. Because having a label today is very easy. It's a digital platform and just release a record. We really want to curate and keep our narrative right, and we want to release records with people that we really respect and admire, whether they're established or not established. We just want to release great music. So we just source stuff ourselves, and we listen to it, and we all take a vote, and then we put it out.
That's cool. So like the younger artists in the audience, they can literally just send stuff in, and it's listened to as much as that's good to know. That's really cool. Oh, what's the best way to send music to you? Is the first question.
You can always send music to the Kultur Instagram via DM.
Perfect.
You can also send it to the Brobot via DM as well. I mean, that's probably the easiest and quickest because a lot of us navigate those platforms and we will get it. But there is demos at brobotrecords.com, and there is demos at culturerecords.com, but that's a lot of information to think about. I just say DM links, flood it, we'll find it, we'll get it, and we'll listen to it. Why not?
Sick.
You never know. Could be another one more time in there.
How do you feel about samples in demos, like crate digging style?
I think sampling it's as creative as you can be, like as you want it to be. I think there's art in sampling. Obviously, we know that. I mean, people like Todd, Terry, and Kenny, and Daft Punk, but we all sample. But it's how you sample and how you use that sample and how creatively you do it. I mean, I had a song on Circus called Strong Enough, which is sample based, but a lot of people couldn't tell where it came from. Some people could, but majority can't. And that's what's great. When I can hear something and I'm like, I know this, but I don't know where it's from. Really gets me, it gets my mind going. But I think it's about creative sampling. If you're just looping something and not doing anything with it and putting a beat behind it, chances are, unless it's a sample we've never heard before and you didn't do anything to it and it's still genius, it's not, it's not a way I love to hear sample records being created.
Yeah, so it's all in the, I guess, I think is it all in the presentation? That's a good way to put it as well. Yeah.
It's like, absolutely. It's how you recreate a sample. Like, for example, now there's so much information out. People are showing you how Daft created One More Time and how they took 3 parts of a sample and recomposed it into different grooves to create what we now have is that. And that's what creative sampling is. It's taking something and completely flipping it, or taking something so obscure like Cola Bottle Baby and them creating, what they did with that. I mean, it's using your imagination, and that's what sampling is. It's a tool, but you have to know how to use that tool in order to build what you're going to build well.
I saw that video. In fact, I watched that video with a friend of mine called Hobbs, and then we released a record last year by doing that actual process. Like first time I released a record in ever, and we watched that video on after the Daft Punk sampling one, and then we were like, right, let's make some records just after watching that, and sort of similar process. So yeah, I hear that completely. Like we did all right as well, so it's good.
Yeah, that's what it is. It's finding grooves within grooves, sounds within a sound. Remember, there's space within a second, right? Like in time. So what's in there? Like how do you work that little space? And that's the same thing with music. There's space within a time between the snare and the kick. There could be something in that space that you can find that's genius. It could be just a stab or a sound or something that can change your life.
When you start a record, where do you start? What's your kind of process of from A to B? When I'm doing work for myself creatively, there is no method to my madness. It's usually what I'm doing. If I'm sampling, it's going to be start with the specific sample or the specific thing that I'm doing that I'm cutting up. Or if I'm working and I'm starting with just drums, I'll just make drums and let that inspire me and take me to a place. But it usually starts with either a sample or a bass line or a groove. It's a groove that kind of dictates where I go, whether it's going to stay a track or it's going to become a vocal. I don't know. It's just about, and there's sometimes I'll make tracks and I know there's too good and I want to get I get the urge to finish them quickly, but I'm like, let me wait because maybe this record could be better as a vocal. That's what happened with Be With You. Be With You, when I first did it in 1999, it was a sample track. The vocal was a sample. And I remember loving it. And then I think it was Roger and somebody else goes, dude, man, this could be a really good vocal. Let's try to make it into a vocal. I'm like, I was hesitant. And I thought, okay, fine. And I passed out some demos via cassette at that time. And Dajé came back and she had put a vocal on it. And then I remember playing a cassette in my basement for some friends. I'm like, hey, check this out. You like this? This is what it was like before. This is what it's like with Dajé on it. And we're just looking at each other, goes, this is good. And then I had Be With You. And if I would have just been that stubborn kid and rushed it, I never would have had, Be With You would have never manifested. So sometimes you got to, take some time. Yeah. That's mad. Also, I like trying to work out how you the whole process of a tape and putting another vocal. That must have taken forever, man. Jesus.
Oh man, dude. I remember. Yeah, listen. I came in with a little bit of technology was coming in still, but before my peers before me were on tape. Armand and I used to do remixes, so we would have DAT, digital audio tapes, or DAT machines or DAT tapes.
Yeah.
And we would fly vocals into a sampler. So the whole song will be in a sample. So the first verse would be one key. Like, for example, let me see if I can do this real quick. So here, it's just like, I just want to be with you and only you sometimes. And then do the whole song, a span of a whole keyboard. So it was like part. It was mental because we didn't really have the bandwidth to, even import audio files into a computer. We were doing a lot of stuff into workstations or DAWs. My first workstation on my DAW was a rolling W30. I had 2 banks of sample time, only 7.4 seconds each bank. So I had like maybe 16 seconds of sample time, period. And that's how much time I had to make a record. 16 seconds. And I had to make tracks with that. All my first tracks, I only had 16 seconds of sample time to compose music.
What? That's mental. Shit.
Yeah.
Wow. So, and that's 16 seconds I had to have, I guess, all everything. Wow.
Everything. It's kick, snare, sample, vocal, whatever, anything. And I would sample on 45 just to speed it up, to save milliseconds or seconds, and then play it in a lower octave in a keyboard so I can have that sample. So it would save me some time. And back then it was something called truncating, where we would have to literally truncate the sample perfectly to just save half of a second and be like, oh, I got to have a second back. So, that was exciting times. Like,
holy
it's
shit.
interesting.
That's
Yeah, man.
like, I'm literally like, fuck, I didn't know it was that, like, fuck, that's really cool.
It was a process. I mean, and that was easier for me because I remember I'm like 9 to 10 years younger than my peers, like the Todd and Armand and all of them. And I got in early, but to make music back then, I mean, it's different today because you can have everything in a laptop, but you had to invest in your craft. You had to buy samplers, buy a reverb, physical hardware, you had to invest in your craft, or you had to rent a studio, which was all costly. So if you wanted to make music, there was no bootleg samplers to get. You had to buy physical inanimate objects and put them in a rack and then use them and touch them. So you really had to make records. You really had to want to do it and have a passion for it, because it did take a lot of time and it costs a lot of money. Yeah. I'm
trying to soak all that in. Like, I'm just like, fuck, you had 16 seconds to make a record. Jesus.
I know, it bugs me out too, actually, when I think about it. I'm like, damn, I don't know if there should be like a little game show with that or something like, can you make a record in 10 seconds with just 10 seconds of time? Or 16 seconds.
That should be it. I'm turning that into a show. Like, we should do that on Twitch.
Let's do it. I'm your partner. We're here. This is it.
Let's do it.
This is our agreement now. Let's do it.
We'll just invite people in and to get them to try and make a track in 16 seconds.
I'll be your co-host.
I'm totally down for this. This is welcome. And then we'll just sign the records afterwards. Wicked. Let's do it. Okay? So, how do you feel about the modern software synths? Is your question in the chat?
I love it. I think we're at a point now. In the beginning, I was really skeptical. I had and owned a lot of synths. I know there's a lot of synthesis people. I mean, synthesizers are gold today, and I had the majority of them, whether it be a Jupiter 8, Juno 106, MS10, MS20, SH101 Red. I mean, I can go on and on. And back then, the math wasn't right, and soft synths just didn't do it. They just weren't. Now the math is right. I mean, it's ones and zeros, man. And they figured it out. And the Rolling Cloud, for example, or Arturia are making amazing soft synths. I think having a synthesizer now or any piece of hardware, it's not about needing it. It's about wanting it. You want it. You don't need it. You don't need anything today. Today, we're at a point that what's going on inside the box and with plugins, whether it be the UA mimicking an 1176 or a Neve mic pre 33102 or 1078. It is what it is. It's amazing. They figured out the math. We're in the future and there's nothing. We got self-driving cars. Why can't we get a synth to sound like a synth? So, it's for people to say like, oh, these soft synths don't sound anything like the real thing. Remember, analog is analog. It changes. Your Juno 106 will sound one way right now, and it'll sound another way in 10 years because of wear and tear and components being, weathered, and it just changes. It's just like a mic. Not everyone thinks you get a U87 and they all sound the same. No, every capsule is different because they change over time. The usage, the heat, so they all sound different. That's what analog is. It's a characteristic. So and what's great about soft synths is they capture the best moment of a synth, and it is consistent because it's ones and zeros or numbers, but they sound great.
That's cool. Someone's saying the Rolling Cloud stuff is pretty mind-blowing.
They're CPU hogs, but they're great.
And also said there's less repairs with soft. I guess unless your laptop dies. Yeah. And it's great, man. I mean, listen, today to have a plethora of sounds of synths that would take, would fill up a room and would overheat your room, because if you had a CS80, that thing weighs about 400 pounds and it'll cost $35,000 to $40,000 anyway. So let's keep it real. If I played something for you, no one, I don't care, even if you're Hans Zimmer,
or the dude from Vangelis is gonna be like, that's today. That's not a real CS80, or that's not a, like, I don't. We there is no argument. No one's gonna sit there and tell me sonically they can tell the difference today what's analog and what's digital.
Yeah,
especially. 100%. Yeah,
you see that in like so many times in forums and chats and discords and like, oh, it's not this or it's not that. I'm like, really? Can you really retell? Can you actually?
No, you can't. If you, yeah. So
are you listening through your AirPods on your iPhone?
Let's be honest. You can't tell.
So you started working with some music with a load of people over the last time. I've got a list: Low Stepper, Matt Joe, Carla Leo. Let's talk about those. How does that process work for you? Like, how does it work? So you started this work with Low Stepper. How does that work? Do you work on it each? Do you do Zoom? Like, how's it go for you?
Dropbox has been our one of our best friends. We share files and share set. We actually, what I started doing with Dropbox is sharing sessions and working out of Dropbox in the same session. So with Matt Joe, for example, or with dance systems that I've been doing stuff with, we're like opening up the same session, and I'll add to it, update it, save it. They see that I did something to it. They open it up and they're like, oh, cool. And we're just working out of Dropbox, which is amazing because we don't have to keep sending files over. So that's been a blessing. Dropbox is actually that good that if you have a good, strong internet, you can actually just keep the session in there in your shared folder and work back and forth.
That's really cool. I finally seen they've finally updated the music player as well, so you can actually listen to tracks one after the other now. It's which is amazing. Finally. I tell you what we can play. The track you sent me beforehand, the Salt remix. We've got it because we downloaded it, so we can actually probably play that. Let's see if I can play. That's going to play from iTunes, so that's not going to stream. Let's just see if I can play this. So tell me about the track. So that's Salt, which I have never heard of. But you
Salt is it's a British band that are an amalgamation of great musicians and artists, I think from around the world, but mostly from the UK, that are just have been doing amazing albums. And they're like, they're like a new form of like a Soda Soul almost. It meets a dash of Portishead and a dash of like, Massive Attack. They're just like good. I mean, they're just incredible. And I fell in love with the band, and I heard the record and I was just like, but nobody knows kind of who they are or where they're from or who does what, when. I don't know. They're kind of like a mystery, and I like that. Somebody brought it to my attention, and I was driving in a car and I was just like, oh my God, I haven't heard an album like this in ages. And I just freaked out. I probably turned around while I was driving where I was going and went straight home and went to the studio because that's usually what happens to me.
That's mad. I need to hear this album. Like, I like that. I like some of that music, some of it. I never heard of it. It's just really cool. This could be tomorrow's running. Tomorrow, I listen to albums now when I'm running, and that's like, as people send me all these albums to listen to, and they're like, "Have you listened to it yet?" I'm like, "No, it's been during." But as soon as I get to a run, I'm like, album goes on. And I guess for you, it's in the car.
Oh, you're gonna love it because it's super soulful, but it's super. It is nostalgic, but it's but it's current, but it's still like, man, it's just, there's everything you like. You know, when you have a good bite of food and it just hits every part of your palate, you're like, ooh, that's exactly what salt is. Yeah.
That's cool. You've also been working on some another album for Cookie
Kawaii. So anyway, yeah, she's a young artist from New Jersey, actually, and she had a viral hit during the pandemic called Back It Up. I mean, viral, like TikTok, dumb viral. And my daughters knew about it. Anyway, I had no idea that she lived a couple of towns away from me. And my friends of mine who manage her, and they're like, hey, man, there's this girl that you should really work with. And turns out I executive produced her album and co-produced some songs. And it's very New Jersey club, Baltimore style music. It's house, but it's a lot faster. And it's great. She has a great following and she's got a bright future ahead of her. And it was good for me to do that during the pandemic because it was a challenge for me too. It was to break. I love getting away from what I do and working with an artist, especially a young artist, it just keeps me on my toes and keeps me fresh. And it allows me to inject a little of my knowledge into something that's young.
A couple of questions. Firstly, when you started working with this artist that your daughters knew, how did your daughters take that? Did they go mental? Like, how was that?
No, I mean, my daughter's 16, so she already kind of grew up with a lot of, things around her and artists. So she was just like, yeah, I know Cookie. It's it's that. She was like, oh, that's cool. I'm like, my daughter's like, she's not jaded. She knows a lot. Like, she brought to my attention Billie Eilish when her Instagram handle was We Are the Avocados. So my daughter Chloe was like, hey, you really didn't listen, because I used to be like that with her, like, listen to this or listen to that. And then she comes to me and is like, Dad, you have to listen to this. And I'm like, what is it? And she's like, and I went on Instagram as We Are the Avocados. I'm like, I thought that was the name of Billie Eilish's band at first. I'm like, We Are the Avocados. This is a genius name. That's great. It's like, no, her name is Billie Eilish. And I was like, all right. Or Eilish, sorry. And then that's how we are. We bounce back and forth. And I told her, I said, when I was a kid, I would read credits. So if I like the band, let's say I like Trevor Horn and I knew he produced, ABC. And I'm like, wow, I love his sound. So I would go to other records that he produced to see if it was if I liked, whether it was just a band or I liked what he did. So I taught her to go to the credits in Spotify and read who produced it, who wrote it, who are the musicians, so that she can do a deep dive in Spotify and search things that are similar to the things that she likes and see if she resonates with it. So we have that relationship, which is great.
That's cool.
I didn't think we would, but it just turned out that way. We're kind of like each other's muses.
That's cool. That's really cool. I also like I love the kind of going into and finding out, always it's like, what label is this on? Who did this? So you say going into the credits and seeing who did certain parts. And yes, I love doing that, and I find it so much fun. And I don't understand when artists are like, I can't find a label for something, and they're like, well, go and look. Like, dude, go and look. And then it's the most fun part for me,
Yeah, just search, man. Take some time and dig. If you take time, like, production is production, but if you take time for the creative process, like, take a day, don't make music, take a day and just search for samples or stuff that you would possibly like to make a record, but don't do anything else. Don't find something and go, oh my God, now I got to make a song. Just keep diving, and then build an arsenal of build a folder of things that you would want to work on, but take that day and do the research, because you're building a good future afterwards. Possibly.
So you work on that album. How does that work? Like, I'm always interested in albums, how you start albums, how you kind of like, what is the start process, especially when you're working, I guess, with somebody else? Where does that start for you? What's the conversation that happens at the start? Where does the next, how's that process work along the way? Do you know?
Hers was interesting because she already had a lot of stuff produced, and it was like, I mean, she came to me with like 30, maybe 40 tracks of ideas. And some had stems, some didn't. Some were produced by people who knew what they're doing. Some was, produced by, like, today being a producer, everyone says a producer, but necessarily the majority of beat makers. Producing records is I would say it's a different category than just making a kick, snare, hat, and a sub bass with a triplet hat going. Like, it's just, so when I hear these records, I'm like, okay, I have to dissect them and then make sense of them, because a lot of the times I got sessions with like 90 stems, and it's like one track I was like, ooh, other one's like, like they had no sense of how to compose a composition or arrange one, for example. So it's just was just maintenance. And then going, okay, let's keep this, let's not keep that. I can add to this. I think this was perfect. It just needs, that's what my executive producer role was. And then as that progressed, I winded up injecting myself into some of the songs and enhancing it. I wouldn't say making it better, because I think it was great. A job of a producer when you're producing somebody's record is not to change the aesthetic of what it is. It's just to enhance it and make it that much more amplified and better. Like if I was producing a band, I'm not going to change the band. I'm just trying to make them a better version of themselves. You know?
Are you enjoying this interview? If you are, consider subscribing to us on YouTube. And if you want to watch them live, come and join us on Twitch. The link's below, twitch.tv/Graham Farmer. We have live interviews, A&R sessions, demo listening sessions. We get labels that are signing records. Come and join us on Twitch. It's good fun. Let's jump back into the interview, though. Let's go. I love that. That's cool. And then you've also started working on an album which apparently it blurs the line between house and R&B. Catronada meets Disclosure in a good way is how they could describe it. What's
yeah, I mean, I don't know how they said in a good way, but in a good way, Catronada's good and so is Disclosure.
Yeah.
So there is no better way. But whoever said that, thank you. Yeah, I did an album during the pandemic. The only place I left while there was kind of restrictions, I went to Atlanta and worked with a friend of mine, Dallas Austin, who executive produced my record. And he has a long lineage of R&B. He did TLC, Creep. You know, his first album was Boyz II Men. That whole album he did when he was a teenager. I mean, he's an amazing R&B writer and producer. And not just that, he did Pink, Just Like a Pill, Gwen Stefani, Cool. He's a prolific and amazing individual. And we wrote a lot of songs and did an amazing album, and it's sitting here waiting for the world to hear. And it's an amazing. I love it. You know, and I think that's one thing about making a record is once you finish it and it's done, it's already a success to me, regardless of how it does. You know, algorithmically, it's fine. You know,
are you release it yourself, or will you shop it to people?
We're on the fence. I think my management have plans, and for the first time in a long time, I'm listening to managerial plans. I'm just like, okay.
I'm doing as I'm told. That's cool.
Yeah, so, you know, I learned to like step back and like let others kind of lead, because I dictated so much and led so much of my career, my life, that it feels good to have other people say, hey, I think we should do this. Let's try this. I'm cool. You know, I'm not a control freak. I'm not Kanye, so I'm good. Let's try different tactics. I'm cool with that.
Yeah, I like that. I've thought that a lot the same as well recently. I've been like, I've done a lot of the same things all the time, and I'm like, well, let's just try something different. Like we come out of a pandemic, and how can I try something different? I love that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I read that you're progressive and kind of try new stuff. What are you into musically, or what have you got into the NFT thing? Have you got into metaverses and anything like that? It's like what's new, and tell me.
All right, let's just slow down with the metaverse. That just happened. It's like,
yeah.
Listen, we're moving way too fast, way too quickly, which is fine. Listen, technology, it's inevitable. We know where we're going, and like look at what we're doing. This wouldn't have been possible 15 years ago. Like,
yeah,
I mean, maybe, but not in this quality or capacity or whatever. But I am very, you know, I've been on, you know, crypto not very early on, but pretty early on, I would say 2015, and I understand it. Took me a while to wrap my head around it. I do understand NFTs. I see the worth. I understand how powerful Discord is. I get it. There's a movement. There's things happening that are inevitable that we can't control, that we have to either we get with it, utilize it, or we're gonna literally be left in the dust. I look at this. There's no difference in what's happening right now. It's just more exponential. There's a lot more things happening than how when MP3 technology came and Napster came, and then everybody said that's not going to work, and the record companies went against Napster and the MP3 like it was a demon, and then they realized, oh no, we have to utilize this, and now we have to incorporate it into our business model. We can't be afraid of technology, because it's going to happen regardless of what we think and feel. I love records, and when CDs came, I was like, that's never going to work. Records will never disappear, and it did. And CDs came, and that was a format, and then the MP3 came, and then or the laptop came with a Serato, for example, or a Tractor, and then a USB came, and now people think the MP3 is not going to die. You still download. No, we're going to be playing from a cloud. So all these stores that are selling MP3s that literally think that streaming will not take over the world, you're wrong. And I have one word for you: Kodak. Yeah, and that's what it is. And we can't, we have to progress and take what's happening and utilize it and adapt to it so that we can, essentially progress in our careers, whether it be music, art, film, television. I mean, look at TV. Netflix started with mailing DVDs to people. Now we're streaming on TV. So if they stayed in that model and thinking that DVDs would never end, that they wouldn't exist right now. It's just, you can't be the horse with the visors. You have to have the vision enough to see what's going to happen next, or try or believe in it. I usually say this: if you're scared of it and you think it's wrong, it's usually right.
Yes. Yeah. And some things are kind of like right at the start, and you're like, it's all completely wrong. And then you end up being late to it, which is always interesting as well.
If you're scared of it and you think it's not going to happen, it's usually right. I remember being in Germany and watching on Viva, which is their like German MTV, Viva, whatever. And I remember seeing the Backstreet Boys. I'm like, oh, this will never work in America. Thank God this is not in America. I was wrong.
Right. I'm going to see if I can play another record. Should we try and do this? Let's see if we can play another record. Let's do it. Right.
I love doing dope shit for the culture, if you didn't know.
The Culture. That was your first record on the new label.
And I'll share a little tidbit. That vocal sample, I'll tell if you guys watch Drink Champs with Noriega, they just had Kanye on that interview show. I don't know if you ever watched it. It's great. It's a great show. It's basically they get all these different artists or people in the industry, especially hip hop, come in, they drink, and then as they progressively get drunker, they talk, and they ask questions, and it gets really interesting. So it's called Drink Champs. Really big show. Kanye was just on it, 2-part episode. That vocal sample is actually from that show. So
no way.
Sometimes I'm watching things, I'm like, oh man, they just said something brilliant, and it resonates with me. And you're like, why not use it? Because it's a message. It says something.
Yeah, that's cool. I love that. That's cool. Also, the kicks in there are fucking great. Like, they sound amazing.
Thank you.
Everyone knows that I'm a Kick fan, and I love having a thumping. That's great. They sounded amazing. In our chat in the UK, we have a thing called a meal deal, and it comes from certain shops, and you buy it as a lunch thing. Obviously, we're in a lunchtime space here. It's a sandwich, a drink, and a usually a crisp combo. I don't know if you've had them before. I don't know if you've been over here and had them before.
Yeah.
What would be your favorite thing from a meal deal?
Probably. Well, I don't drink soft drinks. I don't drink soda anymore. So it'll have to be a pint. That's not a meal deal, right? So water, sandwich, or fish and chips, and some crisps.
Nice.
You know?
Nice. And then the second question was, any tips for getting your drums more jacking?
Ooh. Put some time into your drums, into your sample library, create your own samples a lot, program your drums, feel it out. It's good that, people have and they use the top loops, but if you do use that, change them. For example, a tip is if you're taking a top loop, take two of them and combine them or switch them up. Cut one end and use another end. Like try to use it creatively so that it becomes unique and you're not just taking something and just repurposing it the same way whoever created that top loop, in whatever sample pack you're using, they're just using it. That's like, that's painting by numbers. It's like number one, blue. All right, playing blue. Why not combine the blue with the white and just create a gray and just make the picture look different? Try not to follow what is happening. Try to break the rules. That's what it's amazing about art and music is just you have to try to just break the rules, man. Just don't take the easy route out and just make something. Like if somebody takes a sample pack and there's a kick and then there's a snare and there's a loop and then they take a loop and a top and a hat and there's nothing original about this. It's just putting stacking stuff on one another and going, oh, I made a track. No, I really didn't. You just try to utilize it and
no, you really
try to really use it creatively, man. You have the time.
Yeah.
It's not like how quick you can do something. It's how well you do it,
That's cool.
It's not the tool, it's the carpenter, right? So everyone has the same tools. It's how you use them that really makes a difference.
Agreed. Libs is saying he loves your diffusers. He wants them. He wants them.
All right, maybe I'll get rid of them on my Discord.
You're in the Discord. You've got a Discord. Cool. I love Discord.
Yeah, it's all being set up right now. I'm literally diving into the Discord world, and I think it's fantastic. And I think it's a way for people. It's almost like going to the basement of the record shop.
Yes.
That nobody knows about.
Yes.
And that's how I look at Discord. It's like the underground of the underground, the clandestine of it all. And I dig it.
I do. I feel like it's like old school forums, and I used to love old school forums, and it's just like that sort of vibe, but just now, like it's cool.
Yeah.
Have you mentioned you had all the hardware before? Have you scaled that down? Are you now more laptop and?
Yeah, I have scaled down quite a bit, and I just keep the necessity, a great front end, which is my Dangerous 2-Bus Plus. I definitely have my 1073 mic pre. I have a pretty amazing mic that I use, an Apollo X8 interface, SSL Fusion. What else? And then I just got the new MacBook Pro that I'm not using right now, but I will use once Monterey is updated and works with everything. Nice. Monitors, I have my Adams S3HXs. I mean, it's really That's about cool. What you have now. It's your front end. So great audio interface, great mic. So when you do vocals, great monitors because it's important what you're hearing, and a nice environment that you can actually hear in. So. And then everything is concentrated around the laptop. That's the mothership right now.
Do you have any go-to plugins for your drum bus processing?
Yeah. My drum bus processing. Oh man. Hold on. Let me see if I open up. Yeah, I mean, Isotope is cool. Waves is amazing. There's amazing plugins away for drum bussing. I mean, I don't. Yeah. I would say that stuff. Oh, the drum bus in Ableton. Sometimes I use on snares, and it just really brings out the transients. I'll just throw it on there and just move the transient a little bit, and it just really brings my snares to life. You know, I try different things, and if I find something I like, I tend to stick with it and use it.
That's cool. I was listening to the record you put out on Brobot, because we spoke a lot about Culture. We haven't really spoken about Brobot. Tell us about, obviously, that label's been going a while. What's the meaning behind the name? Like, because it kind of, tell me about it.
Brobot was like is my term of endearment for my brothers, for my friends. So like, you're my Brobot, my robot friend.
Right, got
producers,
you.
You know, we're all in technology. We're all, you know, and you know, it's just that term of endearment that I have for people that are in our culture, my Brobot. And then I wanted to do a label where I can release stuff from my peers and my friends, and also younger artists that are just doing really cool things and not having a lot of red tape. You know, just like, let's put it out. And then we've been consistent with just releasing records, whether they're a little bit, you know, they're soulful or they're techier, they're tougher, they're a little bit more techno-leaning. Let's just put it out and let whoever gravitates to it gravitate to it. When myself and Armand, when we're younger, like, we never looked at a techno record and said, oh, we can't play this in the house set. We did. We just slowed it down. Like, we just had fun being diverse and making sure we, you know, think about artists like Little Lewis, who went from Club Lonely to, like, you know, he went Blackout to Club Lonely. That's a diversity, you know, being able to do Video Clash and then also making, you know, Journey with the Lonely and, you know, or Cashmere going from Brighter Days to Cameras Ready, Prepare to Flash.
Yeah.
You know, we've always looked at artists like that could span the spectrum of music and make things a little bit tougher or soulful and still keep the heart in it. That's what I like, and that's what we want to do with Brobot, is always put out records that at the core of it, no matter how it sounds or where it leans, there's a lot of heart in it.
You mentioned Armand a lot. Have you rolled together for a long time? Like, did you grow up together? Like,
oh yeah. I mean, yeah, we've been friends. I met him. I was a teenager, and then we started Mongoloids together when we were just kids. And Mongoloids was our collective, our Wu-Tang of house music per se, which started with myself, him, Sneak, Roger, Daft Punk, Basement Jacks, Ian Pooley, and we were all collective. And we all remixed each other and worked together. And you know, I remixed Revolution 909. We were in a Burning video, and we all did something together. And then what happened is, as we all got bigger, we all went our own routes. But we did at one point have a collective, and it was called the Mongoloids, which was our thing. And we somehow we all worked together. Like, I did the vocals for Where's Your Head At? A lot of people don't know that, and I did a lot of vocals on Remedy. Yeah, so we did a lot together in that ethos of like, let's work together without boundaries and help each other because we love each other as brothers, you know?
No way.
Music.
You did Where's Your Head At? That's no way. I played that record. I used to I DJ'd a couple of times. I played that record at a nightclub called Turnmills, where I used to work in London, and I literally it was a fancy dress party. So I used to work there, yeah. And it was all fancy dress, and I had this like literally a frog shower cap given to me because it was my birthday. And I played that record, and everyone was started singing "Where's Your Frog Hat" instead of "Where's Your Head At," and I literally turned the thing off, and everyone was singing "Where's Your Frog Hat," and it was a funny time. And yeah, every time I think about that record, it reminds me of that thing.
Yeah, Basement Jaxx album Remedy. There's another interlude. It's like the rhythm, the jacks, the basement, the tracks, and the rhythm, the jacks, the basement. The rhythm, the tracks, the basement, the jacks, and that's me. That's having fun. I went to the studio in Brixton and like just hanging out. Next thing you know, like, yeah, just popping in and like say some shit. I don't know. It was just kind of like there was no method to the madness. It was like, hey, just say something, dude, and leaving there, not even thinking they're going to use it, and they did, and that's how it was. We just kind of help each other without having like any type of, hey man, I did that for you, you owe me anything. No, it's just sharing creativity.
No way, that's cool. Your new Discord server should be your extended Mongoloids, and just kind of like grow this newer, like people that's in there. That's just becomes part of your part of your clan.
Yeah, I mean, we're actually. What's funny is I won't deep dive too much into it, but Dance System and I, James, we're doing something together that is very. He's definitely on that Mongoloid tip, and he catches that ethos, and he's really deep diving into that feel. And we're doing a project together that's very similar to that as well. So it's cool. I think sound comes back and things come back again. And what's interesting about the past coming into influence today is it just sounds better because of technology.
Yeah. Okay, let's play. Let's look at the chat saying, "You're one hell of a collective." Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Testy Macaroon, that is one hell of a collective. Holy crap, wicked. But
when you think about it, right, it's a collective now because it's like, oh wow, look at what these people have become. But during that time, we were just kids like anybody else, hanging out, admiring each other's music without any lineage yet.
Yeah.
So it is a collective, but it's no different than imagine in the 70s when David Geffen did Asylum and you had Jackson Browne hanging out with, Joni Mitchell, and all these people were hanging out together. They weren't who they were at the time. They were just creatives, not even understanding where they were going to go.
Exactly. Gang, and in 10 years' time, this is our little collective, and we're going to smash it. Like, this is it. This is... Right, I want to play the record off Brobot. This is what we started talking about before we go. Anzu, Lovebird. I was listening to this beforehand. Incredible. Oh my God. Gang, I want to play this record for you. I was listening to it before. The fact it's only had 200 plays on SoundCloud is a travesty. Like, I'm so into this record, man. Holy crap.
Shout out to Anzu. Yeah, that record, we got a great response. Besides what SoundCloud is showing numbers wise, we had a great response on that from the DJs and from the community, and people love the record. So thank you for picking our record because it is we love the record.
Right, let's play this record. That's such a sick track. I told you, and everyone in the chat's been loving it, man.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic. So, be on the lookout for more from Anzu, for sure.
Cool. Okay, cool. That was a sick track. We've talked a lot about music. We've talked a lot about kind of records and releases and history and what. Like, I'm always interested. What are you into? What else are you into? Like, as a person, movies, Marvel.
Oh man, film. Yeah, I love films across the board. I'm a movie. I want to say aficionado, but buff. I love movies. Across the board, whether it be documentaries, Marvel, stuff that's a little bit more, like Alejandro Jodorowsky, Holy Mountain, his original, Dune that never came out, his El Topo, stuff like that. Across the board. Last night, my wife, I know a lot, about David Geffen, but she was watching a documentary on David Geffen, and I just happened to watch it with her, and it just rehashed old memories. Like, I love information and knowledge. I love food. I have a lot of friends that are amazing chefs. I like to cook. I wouldn't call myself a chef, obviously, but I cook pretty well, and I love, food to me is like music. It's like creating stuff out of nothing.
Yeah.
And if you do it right, it's amazing. And if you fuck it up, it's just like a record and just it's just bad. There's only like food is like music. There's only two ways to go. It's just good or bad. That's it. Like there is no in between. You're like yeah, you have records that are just like it's not that good, but it's not bad. It's edible.
Yeah.
Or music is palatable, but is it good or is it bad? You know?
Have you ever made something that you thought was going to be absolutely banging? Then let's say, and you've gone, actually, no, this is horrible.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. I got a vault of stuff that I'm not sure about and just sitting there. I mean, there's probably some remixes that I'm not too proud of, cool. That I'm like, I usually don't remix things if I'm not really into it. But yeah, I've done things that I'm just when you look in hindsight, you're like, ooh, it's all kind of like, maybe I should have used that sound. Or, maybe I fell into the sound trap at that moment of like, oh, this sound is hot. Let me use this synth. And then it doesn't age well. It doesn't date well. Happens for sure. Listen, I'm definitely not perfect. I never said that. I fuck up a lot. But that's how you learn.
Yes.
Be better.
What's your favorite thing to cook? Surround Sound asks in the chat.
Ooh, I don't. You know what I love to do? I mean, I cook a lot of different things. Italian pasta, just now. I mean, everybody can boil water and do pasta, but cooking a good pasta, you got to do well. But I love making French omelets. Like it's something I love to do because it's a skill once you figure it out and you take some time and
what's a French omelet?
Wow. So there's a way of cooking the omelet where you have to keep stirring it. And then you wait and then let it kind of cook a little bit in the bottom, stir it again. You're kind of almost making it like a French style omelet, like as far as scrambled wise. And then you let it's moist and you put like a little creme fraiche or some sort of French cheese in it. And then you fold it very gently over. So the outside is solid and the inside is still very, not wet, but creamy. And then, there's a lot of butter involved.
Yeah.
And then it's really, really freaking good. Little chives on top, little dash of salt,
Nice.
A little bit more butter. Yeah.
A bit more butter. Lots of butter.
It takes some time to learn because you can't overcook it.
Yeah.
And you got to make sure that you don't burn the bottom because you have to fold it. You got to gently tip the pan and then fold it over itself, and it becomes, take a look at what a French omelet looks like, and when you cut it and you open it, it kind of really, the texture. Who's Chef Ludo in LA? He has a place called Petit Trois that I love to go to. One of the best. I mean, I've had amazing French omelets in France, but I'm not there every day. So whenever I'm at LA, I stop by Petit Trois and have their French omelet.
Someone says I'd watch a what did they say? I'd watch a JS cooking show.
The way things are going in music, I'm gonna have to have a cooking show just to stay relevant.
well, it's gonna be like this 2-part thing. It'll be like cooking and you've got to make a track with only 16 seconds of sound and like it's a whole production that's turning into just that one stream. It's incredible.
Pretty much. And I got to do it all myself. No production, no crew. I got to film it, hold the camera, cook the eggs, make the track, use my teeth. No help.
Yeah. Sounds like a laugh, yeah. Right, what time? Right, let's play one more record and then I'm going to let you go because it's obviously you've got a busy day. Do you want to pick a record?
I think today, being a jack of all trades, master of none is the only way to success, right? Everyone's like, I can do this, I can do that, I can do that. Like it's like everyone does everything,
Yeah.
And then next you know, you got you're Insta famous, or you're an influencer. But I always say this, right? Who influences the influencer?
Yes.
That's all. I'll leave it out there. I think I've influenced a lot of influencers that people know.
I think you probably
That's
have.
all I'm saying.
I think you probably
a little bit. Maybe this much.
To finish, I'm going to play this record called Shotgun. You've done this with Shermanology. Talk to me about this record because I love them. They've had a big year. They're killing it new school, and I feel like this is a good pairing for you and them. This is like
yeah. Are you playing the club mix? Like
I'll play whichever. Like I've got the classic club mix or the club mix.
the club mix. So the classic club mix. There's different versions. Like what I wanted to do with this record. So little information. I did this record before the pandemic, way before, like maybe 2 years, and I kept it in my vaults.
Yeah.
Because when we did it, Shermanology actually was just on an interview saying I was one of the first people in house music to really embrace them coming in back into house music because they come from an EDM background. So
I didn't realize that.
So yeah, they worked with like Afro, a lot of those EDM guys. And when I reached out to them to do the record, I actually saw them in ADE and then we connected, and then I love their dynamic of brother and sister and how they work, and they're great. So we started working on this record, had an original version, sat there for a while, fermented, pandemic happened. And then I said, you know something, let's finish it and deep dive into it. And what I wanted to do is do like those old David Morales or those old mixes where they had a version, like a classic version, where it was more piano, a more club version, a dub version. It was just dubby. Because when Masters at Work would remix stuff or create stuff, you had the vocals, then you had the dubs. A lot of the DJs played the dubs because it was more friendly in the clubs. And some people just loved the full vocal. And that's what I wanted to do, is like give that 12-inch single vibe where you had a choice of which route you wanted to take instead of having one version and just that's it. So the classic club version is a little bit more piano, has that feel of a classic vibe. And then the club version is like more of a modern take on that vocal. So I would play that club version because it has a little bit of both. So that's a little story.
That's so sick. Man, I love this label. Like I love these little things about each of these tracks is so cool. Right, let's play this record. I'll play the club version. Let's go for this. There we go. That's so cool. A little fly life action there. That sounded. That's cool.
Yeah, it was definitely inspired. I mean, no hiding it. It was definitely inspired by Flylight. You know,
love that record.
Why not?
Yeah, why not? Yeah, exactly. Why not?
A lot of people don't know. Just a little fun fact that the voice when it goes Flylight, that's Roger on that vocal, Roger Sanchez. So he left a message to Basement Jacks. He's like, yo, what's up, Basement Jacks? Y'all living that fly life. And that was a message that he left on their voicemail. And they just took that and created Flylight. Or the vocal for it.
That's ridiculously cool. That's very cool.
Yeah.
Wicked. I feel like I could sit here all afternoon with you.
I'm full of useless information. So anytime you need that, call me up.
Tell us one more. Go for it. One more. Go on.
That's another show. It's the useless information, which is just like information of culture. But it's useless for a lot of people, but not for me.
Tell what? Let's have one more. Go on. Tell us one more story. Go on. Go for it. Pick one.
I can tell you this. I can tell you that Flowers, or Marvin Helden's Flowers, was written and sung by Roland Clark, and I think he wrote that song in literally probably less than half an hour. And Roland Clark lived right above Armand at the time in this building in New York. So Armand had just did the record, and he sampled. I don't know if you know the sample, but he sampled a particular loop. I won't say it because I don't know if he cleared it, and let's not go there. But Roland had heard it, came down, and I was like, "Oh, here, check this out. You want to write to this?" And Roland was like, "Sure." And he went upstairs, did it, came back down in like 20 minutes, and you got Flowers.
No way.
That's pretty amazing. Yeah,
that's a big one. That's a big one. Wow.
Yeah.
I can literally get that.
And if Roland wasn't upstairs and he didn't kind of hear that going through the walls and came down and said, "What's up?" we wouldn't have Flowers, which was pretty interesting.
That's incredible. Man, gang, you need to start just living next to each other. What's coming up for you? What's next for you? What have you got coming around the corner?
More records, more singles. Wow, I just released a new single called Freedom on with Charlie Vox, featuring Charlie Vox. It's out now. If you
Shit, let's play it.
Rock that. Yeah, it's awesome record. Yeah,
I'm going to find it. Tell us about it. I'm going to go and try and find it.
It's a record that I made during the pandemic. Curtis Richardson wrote it with Charlie Vox. It's awesome. Great writers, great vocalists. And it's I think it's a pretty dope record. It kind of it gives me the sense. I don't know. You got to hear it. You tell me what you think. I can't be my own critic. You got to tell me. How about this? Let's take a poll on this right now. Yeah or nay? Do people dig it or they don't?
We can do that. We can actually do that. Right. Grady Mar, set the poll up. Yay or nay on this. I found it. It's on Undisputed Music.
Undisputed, which is a new label, they've been a champion. They're out of the UK, I believe. They're through Warner's and they're kick-ass individuals, and they've been super supportive of everything. This is my second release on their label. So their first release was a Todd Edwards tune called The Chant. That was on Undisputed.
Yes. And I premiered because I got Cryptogram on there, and I premiered the Cryptogram record. That's right. Cool.
Yes.
Sick. Okay, I'm gonna play this record. Let's and then we'll have a poll in the chat. Let's do it.
Cool. Let's do it.
Freedom, 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 freedom.
There we go. So the poll was yay or nay, or yay but louder, and 98% went for yay but louder.
Oh, all right. We needed to turn it up.
Yeah, we need more of it. L'Amour Disco said, is that bass line replayed?
Yeah, it was all played. Yeah.
Replayed,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
That's cool. That was really sick.
Horns, everything. Yeah. The horn was a sample, just played sample. Everything was played. Yeah,
nice.
Bass line. Yeah.
Nice. And Charlie Vox, tell me about her. Charlie, about him.
I was introduced to her via one of the writers of the song. His name is Curtis Richardson, and he I tend to create stuff and bounce it off him. He's like, oh, I got a great vocalist. Let's try this. Or he'll send me some ideas, and we've been working really great together like that. And and he brought Charlie to my attention, and she's phenomenal. And I would love to continue to work with her.
Sick.
Yeah.
So that's out now. People have been grabbing it while we've been playing as well. So that's lovely.
Oh, it's awesome. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate that. I mean, this is great. This is a great forum to share and spread music. You need it. Thank you, Graham, for doing stuff like this, because it does expose more new music and artists to people, because we can't just rely on one platform, And so thank you for creating this to keep, spreading the word. It's really cool, man.
Thank you. Wicked, man. Thank you for joining me this afternoon, this morning for you. It's been so much fun. Literally, I could sit here all afternoon, talk to you, and we can play music all afternoon, but I appreciate your time. And hopefully we can have you back soon. Thank you so much.
Yeah, let's do a part 2 soon, like Kanye. Drink Champs. We'll do a part 2. But next time we'll do shot for shot. We'll just, it's early for me, but why not? And then we'll just deep dive into stories, and we'll get a little bit, We'll get wasted. You have a pint, and I'll have a gin and tonic.
Let's do it. I'm drinking.
But we'll do a show called The Pint. See how many pints we can go through in like 2 hours.
Oh my good God. I definitely want to do this. I don't really want to make the track in 16 seconds. That's going to be quite fun as well.
Yeah.
Wicked.
All right. Or drinking the pint in 16 seconds.
Yes. Yes, there you go. I'm up for that. Let's do it.
All right, brother. Thank you
See you
again.
soon, man. Thank you. See you soon. Bye, man. I'll see you in Miami.
Peace.
What was your biggest takeaway from that video? Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to know what you're getting out of these videos. I'll be reading all the comments and replying to them. If you've got any questions about the video or you've got any thoughts about the video, let me know in the comments below. Also, consider subscribing to my YouTube channel. I'd love to grow this channel and this community on YouTube. So please consider subscribing. It means you get the videos first and you get notified when the videos go live. If you want to watch these interviews live, join us on Twitch. Twitch.tv/Graham Farmer. The link is in the description. Come and join us live on Twitch. Subscribe over there and join us live in the chat and be part of the OGs in the crew. Finally, if you want to join our big networking server for producers, DJs, artists, come and join us on Discord. It's really cool. It's really fun hanging out in Discord. Again, the link's below and you get all the access to all the A&R feedback sessions and all the forms to submit your tracks to labels first. They're always in there first. I'll be answering questions in there again as well. Join us in there. It's good fun. Thanks again for joining us on YouTube and I will see you in the next video or live stream. I'll see you soon. Cheers. Bye-bye.